So, welcome, listeners. Today, I have a very, very special guest that I was just taken by when I first met her, and her name is Alma Galván. She's the founder of Brainworks, and she is one of the very few people I've come across whose work speaks to both halves of what we carry as parents, what our kids need and what we need. So her story starts the way that a lot of ours do, okay? In 1996, both of her boys were diagnosed with severe autism, ADHD, and sensory disorder, and a doctor looked at her and told her to put her oldest son in an institution and move on with her life. Well, she didn't. And then she spent 7 years searching for something, anything that would actually help, which is a stretch of time I think that a lot of you will recognize in your own bones. What she eventually found was movement, specific, gentle, tiny movements that developed the lower centers of the brain, the pons and the midbrain, the parts responsible for automatic functions that most of us would never even think about, like regulating that fight or flight and filtering out distraction. So when those connections don't fully form, a child ends up living in a near constant state of survival, and everything we see on the outside, like the meltdowns, the overwhelm, the sensory storms, is actually downstream of that. And when Alma started using these movements with her boys, they improved more in a few months than in all 7 years combined. And then other parents started noticing and started asking her to work with their children. And that's how Brainworks was born. So she spent more than 2 decades with it since, working with thousands of families, educators, and professionals around the world. And here's the part of her story that made me want her on the show even more. On December 9th, 2024, Alma had an aneurysm. She was sedated for 2 days and spent 21 days in the ICU. And while she was unconscious, with no conscious mind available to her at all, her body kept doing the movements reflexively, instinctively, as though they've been woven into the fabric of who she is. Her neurosurgeon and doctors confirmed it. She believes wholeheartedly that the practices that she'd done daily for years played a vital role in her survival and recovery. So I cannot stop thinking about that, because so much of what we do as parents is reaching mid-meltdown, phone in hand, Googling, what do I do? What do I do right now? And Alma's story says something completely different, something I believe with my whole heart, that what carries you through the hardest moments isn't what you grab for in a crisis. It's what's already woven in by the time crisis arrives. So since her recovery, Alma has also built something new called Alma Integration. It's an integrative coaching practice focused on helping people return to what she calls their original blueprint, the calm, connected, wise essence that's still there underneath the survival patterns and the noise. So her two bodies of work now hold both directions at once: Brainworks for the child's nervous system and Alma Integration for yours, which is exactly why I asked her to come on, because I don't want you to have to choose between getting help for your child and getting help for yourself, as if we have the energy for both. But that's the thing. Alma's whole life is the proof that they're not two separate projects, okay? They're the same one. So welcome, Alma.
Thank
Thank
you
you
so
for
much,
being
Alma.
here. I'm
Thank you so
so
much for
glad you're
having me.
here. Your story is just an amazing one, and I can't wait to hear more.
Thank
So
you. Thank you so much for having me.
so so I'll get into the questions if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so in 1996, both your boys were diagnosed, and a doctor told you to put your oldest son in an institution. My heart goes out to you for that, because that is not easy to hear, and told you to move on with your life. And then it took 7 years of searching before you found anything that worked. So I want to start there, because so many of my listeners are living in the same version of those 7 years right now. So can you take us into what that stretch was actually like, and what was happening to you while you were searching?
Very, I'm going to say it this way. Those 7 years were so, so hard. Like they were, I'm going to say it this way. They were hell,
Yeah.
absolute hell. Because, having, and you're absolutely right, having that conversation with the two doctors, two different doctors, by the way, two different doctors, not just one, that the first one didn't really put much weight on it because he was the pediatrician that kept telling me early on that I had asked him, I feel like there's something going on with my kiddo. He's my first one. His name is Manny. I think there's something going on. And he kept assuring me, no, nothing's going on with him. He's okay. Okay. Second, the next time that we saw him, are you sure? I can't pinpoint anything. I can't tell you anything, but I feel like there's something off. And he kept assuring me. So by the third time that he said, Alma, you're neurotic. You're
Wow.
too stuck on that. Nothing's wrong with your son. I'm like, but his language is not coming in. He's like, boys speak later than girls. Let it go. I go, okay. So I came home and I told my husband, I'm like, listen, it keeps assuring me that everything's okay. And if I'm gonna have another child, which we wanted 3 originally.
Mhm.
Okay, that's
You're
not.
courageous.
I wish I could just give me the child. I didn't want to be pregnant.
Yeah,
I
I hear
wasn't
you
that
on that
person
one.
that loved the pregnancy. It was there's certain
I
moments,
didn't have a
right?
great pregnancy either, so I totally get that. Yeah.
So I became pregnant and I started noticing that he absolutely left. Like there was no eye contact. There was a little bit before. There was something that transformed massively, but not instantly. It took me about a month and a half to really even notice what had happened. And by then, he was just not aware at all what was dangerous. If I didn't have him close to me, if I didn't have him in my hand, and he could be bolting down the street, and it could be a rural street or it could be a 4-lane road, and had no awareness of the amount of danger. My heart massively stopped a whole bunch of times in that space. But by then, remember, I'm pregnant.
Hmm.
So now the amount of stress that the baby's going through is incredible. So in utero, the other little kiddo is also having massive gaps in the development because where I was at, where everything was at, and we can only do what we can do as a human, as a mom, right? So I really want us all to not be so hard on ourselves. If we knew better, we would do better. But that's the interesting, beautiful thing about us having this conversation, Afshan, because this shows that people are wanting to learn. They are wanting to know.
Yeah, and
So
you understand a lot about development. Like, so we'll get into later about how you've learned a lot about like how the movements that you teach and that you do actually like mimic a developmental trajectory, right? And how
yes,
certain developmental things get missed, maybe starting even from utero
they do.
onwards,
Hmm.
get missed, and how you help to sort of complete those so that then it can be a greater foundation to build on for the child's brain and nervous system, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, okay, so you were in this challenge. Okay, so you had this one child, you felt like there was stuff going on, you weren't getting sort of any insights from professionals on this. Then you're pregnant with another. Then you had this your other child, and then you went through these challenges for 7 years until you found movement. And so I just want to understand and give listeners, like help listeners to understand, like, so because I also like to, you know, uh, help listeners to see like they all have the perseverance within them. What kept you going and what kept you searching? What was it for you?
Looking back, I think it's a knowing inside me that there's something greater than me. And there was one moment at 1 o'clock in the morning after just bawling my eyes out that it's like, this isn't life. This can't be life.
Yeah.
It just can't, and seeing my by then, 2 kiddos that were struggling because, in trying to help my older one be able to find answers, my little one was in my arms, in a stroller, in a car seat. How much development did he have during that first year? None.
Yeah.
Very little. So he started exhibiting a lot of challenges himself. And
Yeah.
so now I had 2 boys that both had significant challenges, that meltdowns could be up to 2 hours. It was actually a common occurrence in my home. 2 hours. And I was like, oh my gosh, like again, that moment at 1 o'clock in the morning where I'm like, this can't be life. And this very clear thought came in. And the only thing I can think of is like, there's a divine energy that then all of a sudden assists us. And it was very clear that it's like, wait, they're not yours. They came through you. And then I know it's going to sound really funny, but and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. So they're not, I mean, they came through me. They're my sons. Yes, they are. But I didn't have a single decision on where the eyes went, where the mouth was, where their lungs were, where their heart was. So there's a different blueprint that somebody else has, this divine energy has, that I didn't know about. And so then I kept thinking, like, well, then there's got to be a way. Then you show me what to do. And that, that for the longest time, it's like, okay, that kind of ignited me to start going like, there's got to be a way, and show me. You have the blueprint. And so I started even more like just going at, I'm going to research. I'm going to, basically my brain is that it's a researcher. And so in talking to as many people as I could, as I, because it was in the 90s, there's no Google, there's no internet. So I was just talking to everybody that I could, and all the programs that were geared towards kiddos with challenges, they weren't doing a thing for my kids. And there were certain things that started, I'm like, okay, I like that part. And I would utilize certain parts until about that 7-year mark where I came across a teacher. Wasn't even a teacher in my district. It was somebody else that somebody said, call this teacher. She's doing something and she may have an insight. And I'm like, okay, I guess she could just hang up on me. And this teacher started working with my son, with Adrian, my second son, not even with my first son, because my first son had more challenges than my second son. And so she started doing brain gym, some of brain gym movements, but other ones as well. And brain gym was like one of the first massive keys that really started igniting my like desire to then explore more, because of the results that I started seeing. Within a week and a half, I felt like the edge had been taken off of our home. Like there's something about it that massively shifted within like a week and a half. Looking back, what it was is that anything I did with my kids, I had to do it through play. So this teacher would teach me a movement and I would have to be creative. How do I play doing this movement? How do I get them to participate? And so if I was playful, if I was, connecting with them in that sense, and I had to really let go of, this is how the movement goes, you have to do it this way. That would have been my nature originally. Do it right, do it correctly.
Yeah.
And what I learned is that if we want to do something truly correctly, it has to do with connection. If we can connect with our child in a loving, playful way, they will follow us much more. The thing is, the changes that happened in my home, yes, my children were doing the movements, but guess who was doing the movements too? Me. And so it was really my nervous system that started settling down. It's for the first time that I felt like I could breathe in years.
Wow. So this is so powerful, okay? Because like I teach parents like how that in order to really help regulate your child, you need to be regulated too. But then parents often go still and they sort of hold themselves in, and it's not like a true regulation. And then there's still this expectation or this pushing energy, which a lot of my listeners have PDA autistic kids who are very demand avoidant, and that doesn't work for them, right? So then they get exacerbated and they're like, I can't bring in another therapy or modality for my child because they're not going to listen. But what I'm hearing is this, like, you do, as a parent, you're doing the movements yourself, you're in the play, it's regulating you. And then it's then, your child will feel that regulation, and then they'll want to join in more. There's more of a chance that they'll join in and do it with you. So it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. I love it.
They will lean in. And there's another huge piece that, it took me years to find this piece. It's much more known now, but there's something that's called microchimerism. Long word to say this in utero. This is why for me and my work now is like, yes, I can work with a child, but if you really want changes, it's us as the parent that really needs to just kind of pause and start to be more gentle to our little kid inside us as we grow our capacity, our ability to be able to help our kiddo outside.
Yeah, yeah.
Microchimerism. Have you
My,
heard of that word?
I have. I actually wrote about it in one of my podcasts
It's so
on
cool.
co-regulation and how how, yeah, these cells from the child's cells from their body go and travel up to our brain. And so we have a bit of them in us. And then there's this, like, as we regulate, they feel it. There's also, other neuroscience around co-regulation and how it works in terms of actual nervous system body cues that the child breathes that I talk about as well. But microchimerism is a really interesting one. I'm
It's
probably
a
not pronouncing it right.
wonderful, yeah, microchimerism. It's wonderful because I go into pictures, right? And so I'm thinking, okay, if I'm working on myself and I'm calming myself, I'm attuning myself to the frequency of kindness, of calm, of love, and my cells are starting to vibrate like a tuning fork, right? In in that vibration and that energy, and then that sends the message to the cells that are my cells that I gifted my child when they were in utero, and they
Right.
still have my cells, and my
Right.
cells
And they
didn't
have our
die.
cells too, right?
And
Hmm.
then I have their cells. So anything that directly I do to me, I'm doing it to the cells that they gifted me when they were in utero. So I'm actually changing my child's cells within me from the work that I'm doing on myself. And then with the tuning fork effect, anything that they're saying, oh, the strongest energy, we've heard that strongest energy wins. So I get excited that we have so much more power as a parent to grow our capacity to be that strongest, loving, calmest energy. That's how we can help our child start to tune down their energy the fastest way. It's sort of
Yeah.
counterintuitive, but it is the fastest way.
It is quite, but not everybody fully understands that. But okay, so I want to touch into a little bit more about movement. So, like, why movement? You finally found these movements. Your boys improved incredibly. Your work talks about the pons and the part of the brain that regulates fight or flight, which is underdeveloped in a lot of our kids. So our children end up living in this constant state of fight or flight. So, my listeners, they know that state, intimately from the outside, but not from the inside. So can you help them understand, like, what's actually happening in their child's brain and body when movement reaches something that, basically, like, reasoning or other strategies or rewards just can't reach?
Absolutely. So let's talk about the root of how all of this really comes to be. In movement is our first language. We start by movement, by even just the cells being able to move, and grow and duplicate movement. And if we would have had the most ideal place for us to grow, movement, it's a sequential way of growing. And so it's wonderful, except that, again, if you think about my Adrian, my second son, he was under so much stress, so that sequence of development was cut off constantly, which means that anything that he would have needed for that foundation to be available wasn't there. So he's born and not having the ability to movement then also was not available for him to keep developing. let's talk about one of the first parts of the brain that starts to develop. There's other ones, but one of the first ones that I want to talk about is called the pons, as you've mentioned it. The pons is our survival part of the brain. It's the one that lets us know truly, am I in a life and death situation, or we've been here before, we got this. When we didn't do several movements, one of the big movements is creeping. It's on the tummy. So it's tummy time that really develops this part of the brain. What did Adrian get? Not very much tummy time, which means this kiddo was any little thing and he would be going off to the races in the panic mode that, oh my gosh, the sky is falling. Didn't matter what it was, because his brain kept getting the signal, you're in a threatening situation. This is life and death. This is life and death. He didn't have any of that foundational awareness that, oh no, this is not really a life and death situation for that little brain. He was in constant survival, which is something that I've found across the board with so many of our kiddos, and actually sometimes even some of us, that if we don't have enough development in the pons, then my brain is getting mixed signals. It's not mixed, it's getting the wrong signals. It's saying you are under threat. You better fight, you better flee, you better do something to survive. And to a human, Afshan, there is nothing greater than survival. So if I'm getting this message of survival, nothing else matters. Not, learning, not fun, nothing matters. It trumps everything. So what I loved is that, after I learned the brain gym movements, about 3 months into them, I thought, this is great. I hit that wall again, which then was wonderful that I had that teacher to talk to, because I asked her, I'm like, I think there's more, isn't there? There's got to be more, because I feel like I've hit a wall with these movements. And if we don't do these movements, I revert back to having not exactly the same, but fairly close. And she goes, well, how wonderful that I came across this research from Doman and Delicato where they're talking about, they simulated movements that a baby would have done that first year of life. And they were working with brain injured children. So when they were then doing some of what we're talking about, like creeping and crawling, all of a sudden the children that had these brain injuries started doing tasks that they shouldn't be doing because of their brain injury, which I think it was one of the first parts that people really started to see, that the brain has this beautiful plasticity effect. So
yeah, that's the wonderful new neuroscience. Well, not that new, but becoming more popular. Yeah, in understanding. Yeah, the brain can change.
Absolutely. And so what I do is I go back, I've learned after 25 years, right? You go back to starting to do movements that start filling in the gaps, that start doing certain foundational work, so that then as we're doing those movements, we start to acquire functions. So again, we're talking about fight or flight. If my brain keeps getting the message that I'm under threat, like I'm in a threatening situation, I can't think. And so, but if I grow that part of me, if I fill in that, then my nervous system doesn't have to jump into fight or flight constantly. I mean, that's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, it really, really is. It's so like, I don't think so many people don't understand this, and one of the regulating tools I use in my signature program is different kinds of movement tools, because movement is such a huge regulator. But these are very specific movements targeted to a certain area of the brain. And so I'm curious, can you share with listeners, like, what you were doing all these movements, and in what ways, what are some of the big changes you saw in your kids over time, and how are they doing today? Because listeners, they want to know, like, where is this, what are the possibilities here? And they want to understand sort of where your kids are at today.
But yeah, I love that. Love that question, because I wish I would have had somebody that would have said, hey, look, this is possible. This is what's possible. Is it for each person? No, that's what's so beautiful, that each person is different. And so if we can I mean, what started happening that my kiddos started talking, for one. Like, they
Wow.
were both nonverbal until after 6 years old.
Wow.
So they started being able to they communicated. That's the interesting thing, right? It's but talking was not, it was not possible for both of them. So they started talking, they started being able to have a little bit more contact, like eye contact. We started being able to just be able to even go out in nature a little bit, because I was homebound for many years. So being able to start kind of living a little, that was huge. And now they're
That is
actually,
huge. I understand that deeply.
and now they're 33 and 31. That's a big that's a big time there, and they both have jobs. They are incredible beings. They are my most magnificent teachers, and I adore being around them. And the cool part is that they adore being around me. And
Oh,
that's
I
a
love
piece
that.
that is a piece that just like it touches me massively, because we are still growing in our ability to be able to understand but share. And now it's like my nervous system is not in such a reactive mode that they're as soon as my door is open from my office, they're like little bees. They're like, "Hey, can I talk to you?" Because
Oh, that's
they we
so
live,
lovely.
they live with me, but they pay rent. They do their own food, they do their own laundry. They're pretty much independent.
Wow.
We're just kind of living in a I don't necessarily love to say that it's like they're my roommates in a sense.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
So,
I feel like we've lost the whole village aspect of living. And can that be okay? Like I talk to a lot of parents about how we're so conditioned that things should be a certain way, that your child should be independent and be able to do everything for themselves, go out and get a job, live independently, have relationship, do all that. That's not the path for all of our kids. And can it be okay that can some of our kids still be part of the village for a longer period of time? They have their own journey, their own timelines, and can that be okay? And I love your story. I think it's a beautiful one, and especially that level of connection you have with your kids. It's beautiful.
and that's a very big conversation to have with yourself, that many times we've been told what are the things that should happen. I don't like the word should, but anyway, what should they happen? They were supposed to grow up and leave the nest, and you're absolutely right. Like, I'm from I'm from a village that everybody worked together. So growing up, I saw that community. And when then I started seeing these challenges with my sons, I go, they're not going to be able to be independent. They're not going to be able to. And then I go, wait a minute. Let's not go into what the world says that they should be doing. Let's look at really what their path of life would be ideal for them and
Yeah.
for us as a family. And so, you know,
I love that. I love that reframe. I think it's a really important reframe to step into for so many parents. But I also want to hear about, so you're doing these movements, these tools with your kids, and you also realize down the road that you have a bit of neurodivergence in you, ADHD. And I want to understand how these movements helped you, because my understanding is they actually helped your brain and nervous system as well.
and the reality is that because of the world that we live in, Afshan, we all have some sort of, maybe tiny, but we all are challenged, because think about this. We have toxins in our air, our water, our food, uh, so much everywhere. So we are taxed. Our system is taxed so much.
Yeah.
What I learned is absolutely because of this beautiful dumb luck that I had to do these movements, and I had to do them in a playful way. I started noticing, because again, I didn't think I had anything going on with me. I did okay in school. I did, though. I thought that this was a character strength, that I was like, oh no, I have a great work ethic and I could outwork anyone. Uh-huh. Because I had to. Because I actually really had to work harder than anyone to achieve what others would not take that much. And that started becoming really apparent as I started seeing the changes that were happening, because, tummy time, creeping, crawling, I had to do those too again in a fun way. And the first time I saw, I'm like, wait a minute. I started, I was reading an article, and I noticed that I got through the whole article and it was like effortless. And before, I would read for about, 10, 15 minutes, and then my brain would go into, oh, what am I having for dinner? What are we doing? And I get to the bottom of the page, I'm like, what happened? I have no idea what I read, because
Oh
my
yeah, I can
eyes,
relate.
my eyes did not team. That's midbrain. That's crawling, by the way. So a lot of executive functions come in with crawling. We didn't get there yet. So there's creeping and crawling bring in a lot of functions. We're talking about crawling. Crawling has auditory processing, auditory discrimination, visual imagery, visual closure, shifting gears, a huge amount of the executive functions. So it's wonderful that we're trying to get, tools to help us be able to have better executive functions. But what I've learned is that when we go back and we start filling in, doing more crawling, it sounds very silly, right? But I don't do crawling like, okay, go back and crawl. No, because we're grown up. So we have to be mindful of what can we do to be mindful that we do have kneecaps. We do have aches and pains.
Yeah, crawling might not be easy for some of us.
It is not easy.
Yeah, with
No,
our
it
bodies,
isn't.
our adult bodies today.
Yeah. But as we're gentle with ourselves and as we allow things to activate, and that's again for 25 years, that's the whole body of work that I've been really exploring, is how can we do these movements, but in a gentle, loving way that we can move forward a little at a time. And
I think
again, that's where
important what you just said, that in a gentle, loving way. I think so many of us embark upon any kind of, new strategy with our child or ourselves in a harsher way, like in a way that we go into it where like we have to do this, we got to push through it, and this is like all our conditioning and what we've learned. We have to push through it, we got to do it, and then we're like, and then it doesn't work, and it's like, well, because we did it in such a stressed out way
exactly.
that the safety of that movement didn't even land. So I think that's an important thing to mention here.
It's huge. No, you just said, like, drop the mic on what you just said on that, because it's so true. Most of us were taught, hurry up, get it done, push through it, work harder. And that stresses the brain.
Yeah, that's fight or flight, my friends. That's fight or flight.
And if you're doing any kind of work in that state, you're not learning. You're not growing.
And I would say that so many parents are in that state, and it's hard for them to see it because it's become so habituated. So anything you embark upon, my parents, my listeners, really do it from a place of like, of love and kindness to yourself, right? That's great advice. Yeah.
Absolutely. And if you have a task that you want to do with your child, but they're having a hard time, they're not engaged, if you can pause and connect with your child in that moment and do something that is loving, and just connecting with them is going to be so much more valuable than whatever it is that you were trying to teach. Because whatever it is that you were trying to teach,
everything is connection first, relationship first, then challenge. Connection, relationship first, then challenge. But I love that all of these movements that you're describing can be turned into playful kind of movements where a child would actually probably really love it. It really takes the parent being coming into a state of just being more creative and more in this fun, playful state.
What I learned is that it actually gave me permission to play like a kid. And when I play like a kid, I connect in that level with my kids that I'm working with, or at that point with my kiddos. And it started making life fun.
See, I love that you say that, because I think so many of us, we look at these things, we want to help our kids, we want to help them to improve and get better and be able to function in this world we live in better. but then we do it from a place of this is a chore, this is a responsibility, and it feels very heavy. But what if you could do it from that place of, oh, I'm like, this is helping me too. Like, this is just as beneficial for me. This is me time too. So that reframe in itself, like, this is me time and child time together, and that connection, that we have together, it nourishes both of our nervous systems. So if we can reframe it and see it that way, then it just becomes a lot more freeing to do these practices.
Freeing and productive.
Yes.
Beneficial to both. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And, so many of us, we were talking about that we're just pushing, right? Who taught us to be gentle with ourselves? Who taught us to learn in a comfy space a little at a time? No, it was like, we have to learn this, learn it. And one of the things that I always go back to is like, I don't know if this happened to you, but it definitely happened to me, that I learned the timetables with such stress that then later on I found out that when I would go like, well, what's 7 times 6? I was like, wait, what? Like, I can't retrieve it because when my brain is in a comfortable state, I can't retrieve what I learned in a stressed out state.
You know what? That really resonates with me too. Like, I was really good at memorizing when I was young, and I could memorize everything. But years later, if I go to, recall it, it's like I never really took it deeply in because I didn't learn from a state of calm, relaxed, alert, present, in that, or even in that play zone where you learn so well. That play zone is the best place to learn more quickly for the brain and nervous system. But when you learn from a stress state, yeah, it's like you don't really hold on to it. So much of what we learned in school, it's like now it's like I don't recall any of it.
Yes, exactly. And that's why we're talking about connection, play. That will, in the long run, will go way, way further.
Well, it
So
sounds like it has for your kids because of the connection you have with them now, They felt
yes.
that, they remember that, and they come back to that over and over again. It's
Yeah,
really
and
beautiful.
absolutely, one of the things that I want to just share with parents is like just keep connecting with them and looking, observe your kiddos. If you're doing something and they're leaning in, you're good. Keep going. If they're pulling away or they're pushing or they're having any kind of even slight meltdown or just uncomfortable, it's like ask yourself, okay, what's going on? How can I make the energy lighter? Because again, if they're it's tropism. In tropism, if a cell feels like there's something yummy for it, they'll lean in. If they're not, it's like, "Ugh, pull away. I don't want anything to do with that." So our kiddos give us that information. Are they leaning in or are they pulling away?
That's a really good point to make because um, it's really, reading their nervous system cues essentially. Are they safe? They're leaning in. If they're not safe, they're moving away. So it's really about reading that versus your own inner agenda of trying to get through something, and let it be sort of a dance. Can it be the dance? Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I want to get into then your another pivotal moment in your life, right? December 9th, 2024, right? The aneurysm. You were sedated, you were in the ICU for 21 days, and then you reflexively started doing these movements. Can you tell us more of that story and what happened?
Yeah, I'm
And also
still
what
like
you took from it? Like what was the meaning that you took from it? So yeah.
oh, I blessed that day massively because as hard as it was, especially for my family, I really learned a lot from that. Not just that day, that year right after that was massive. Um, One of the things was that they really didn't even think it was a triple aneurysm, and it was up on the top left-hand side, close to the corpus callosum. So it's like on this area, and they did not think I was good. The paramedics did not think I was going to make it to the hospital. Uh,
Wow.
and luckily, though, that day I ended up being with some friends. Because usually on Mondays, it was a Monday morning, I'm I'm working in my office. And I find it very fascinating. I'm going to call it God. I'm going to call it divine energy that certain things were orchestrated and I was with friends. I think that if I would have been home, that would have been a completely different outcome because no one's around me.
Yeah.
So I found that fascinating, but when the paramedics got there, they really did not think I was going to make it to the hospital. And when I got to the hospital, the surgeon, as soon as they found out what it was, the surgeon was like, I don't think she's going to make it out of surgery. And if she does, she's going to have a lot of cognitive challenges because of what is going on. And so they sedated me. I was in an induced coma for 2 days to allow my brain to just kind of pause. And like you said, ICU for 21 days. But like about a week and a half after I came back, one of the surgeons comes in and she goes, we're not sure why, but your brain is recovering really fast. So we're going to go ahead and take out, they inserted a coil on the right side of my brain to monitor the brain activity. It's like, we're just going to go ahead and take it out, but we don't know why it's recovering the way that it's recovering. And my husband takes out his phone and goes to our BrainWorks website and he goes, do you think this might have something to do with it? And so she looks at the phone and she goes, this is what you do. This is the work that you do. It's like, mm-hmm. She's like, well, that makes sense. And, the movements I teach, I still do every day. Like there's certain ones that I teach people that you need to find which are the ones that just settle your heart, your nervous system. And so there's certain ones that I do every single day. And some of those I was doing while I was unconscious. That's, my husband was able to share that. And he was blown away with it. He's like, it was so interesting, Alma. You just go right into that. And I'm like, is she okay? She's
Instincts, right?
it's
Instincts. Like no
yeah,
higher thinking brain involved. Your instincts, because this was wired into you, just knew what you
reflexive.
needed to self-heal. And that's like, it's just incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming back into the world, I was actually released on the New Year's Eve. So coming into 2025 was wonderful to be home. Little did I know, that was just like unheard of with what had just happened, that I would be home at the New Year. And
Wow.
when they put staples where that other coil was taken out, and when I went back to the neurosurgeon to extract them, he was he didn't even say hello to me. He just like came into the room and he's like, you are so lucky. You have no idea how lucky you are. And I go, well, I know I'm lucky, but you tell me why you think I'm lucky. And he goes, if I would have seen your scans and I would have known that you're over 50, I would have said, no way can she recover, not 100%. And,
Wow.
very fondly, one of my clients nicknamed me as I started doing, my regular work. She's like, nah, you're Alma 2.0.
I
So
love it. So now we're into Alma 2.0. So tell us, like, for you, that was the sort of the pivotal point of Alma 2.0. So can you tell us more about what that is and Alma integration, and also this word blueprint, how you're helping people to return to their original blueprint, and it's sort of like a second, second part of your business, your offering, your calling.
what's funny, Asha, is that Alma integration started coming up more into my mind because Alma integration was my very first company I had. And so, because that's in a very simple way, my name is Alma and I help people integrate. I showed people how to integrate their nervous system, their brain, but it started coming
And
back
Alma,
into
just tell everyone what Alma also means.
Alma means soul.
Soul. So
So,
soul integration, which is
yeah.
the path, that I'm on, of self-realization and realizing who I truly am and allowing my true self to shine, which I call the soul. I don't impose those beliefs on other people, but many people and many of my listeners do share it. And so this is sort of this path you've been on, but now after this aneurysm, what changed?
Well, I needed time for my brain to come back online in a gentle way, and so I pulled back a lot of the work that I was doing with BrainWorks. I had so many plans for 2025 that absolutely none of them happened. So sometimes we think that we're going a certain way, and there's a big detour that happens that goes, no, we are not going that way. And so in just allowing time for my brain to come back online, I started writing. And so I started writing, what are the things that I need to help my brain, to help my heart, my spirit come back to me in a sense. So I started writing, um, I call them thought streams. And thought streams are really meditations. It's a way of doing. So what do I need? What do I want to hear? I want to, and I would just write it, and then I would record it, and I would put gentle music behind it, and then that's what I would wake up to every single day.
Wow.
Uh, and those were the very first things that started coming in, just effortlessly. And then I have those on my website of Alma Integration that people can uh, purchase for like a minuscule little price. But the other thing that started happening is that then I started writing songs. And writing songs, music does something completely different to our, it's
Wow.
so powerful. And so then what do I need to hear? But now I can add music using a AI generator. So with an AI generator, so kudos to Suno, amazing AI generator. So I write my own lyrics, but then I just upload them exactly like that to Suno. And I was even able to, they have something that if you sing a cappella and then they verify that it is your voice, they make something that's pretty close to what you would sound like. And so there's certain songs that sound very close to how I sing, but they don't have the capacity to be able to sing. And anyway, so
Yeah.
writing those songs really started having a huge effect, not just on my nervous system, because I started, I would put the songs on, but then my sons would hear them, and then they would come with their little thumb drive. It's like, can I have that song? Yeah. So again, it's like I wasn't pushing anything on them. I was just like, okay, I need to hear no pain, more gain on like, how can you do this a little at a time? Remind yourself. So it's a lot of what I needed to remind myself of. And as of beginning of this year, I started doing a YouTube channel that's called Alma Integration by Alma Galván YouTube, which are a huge amount of the songs that I've wrote because I feel like the songs that I've been writing are like little mini lessons. They're very layered. If you really listen to the lyrics, they're very layered to the topic. And so in a way, it's a way that we can help our brain take in the topics in a gentle, sweet, fun way.
Yeah, I think music is such a nervous system regulator, and it can help us, yeah, take in things, go deeper. It can help us access our true self energy, our soul. And then, but putting it, putting meaningful words to it, right, helps it just go deeper. And I've listened to some of your music on YouTube. I love it. And there's the one song that's become a hit in our family, and my son absolutely loves it, is the one on grateful or gratitude. I think it was one of your earlier ones on your channel, and we just love that. That's a song we play over and over again in our household.
I love that. That's the fun part about all of this, that with technology, we truly can share much more. And I was blown away this one time. I'll tell you what, one of the parts that just like blew me away with the songs, that this is where I do my meetings with my community. And I was coming in, and it was a Saturday morning, and my son is here and he's like, "Hey, I'm almost done. I'm almost done." I'm like, okay. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I'm getting my music." Okay. And so I'm like, I'm gonna go get some coffee. So I'm going over to get some my music. So anything I want to say to my kid, I can put in a song now and he'll listen to me.
Oh my God, that is Brilliant.
And there's nothing
You
that's
know,
like
I've been using like social stories for Chat GPT, asking it to make me a graphic, to because indirectly, my son, everything indirectly for my son. I can't be so direct
yeah,
with him. His brain kind of shuts off and doesn't want anything direct. And that's, a lot of typical PDA. But so I was doing that, but he loves music. And when he hears music with certain words, he loves it. But that's brilliant. That's
yes.
absolutely brilliant. You can create music for your kids with
Yeah,
certain
and
messaging that you want them to hear.
and I'm also about to start offering this to people that if they have something that they want to share with their child, not in a necessarily at the very beginning, not in it's like, oh, here, I'm going to give it to you, but that they write, what would you wanted to say to your child in utero? What would you wanted to truly, what do you want to convey to them from your heart, from, to their soul? So, because even if you're just, the beautiful thing about frequency, right? That even if I'm here and the sound is not going very, very loud, frequency's felt. So if I play it, my kiddos will pick it up. The quantum self will pick it up.
That's so true. That's so true. So true. So, okay, tell us how you help parents now, because your focus wasn't helping the kid, but indirectly or directly, it was also helping the parents because they'd be doing the movement. And then now you're combining, right, that the movement with the those sound bites and messaging,
Yes.
right, together. So can you tell us more about that? How do you help, the parent now?
Well, I have several things that I do because not everybody's in the same place. So I want people to have access to, working one-on-one with me to having a little starter program. So with BrainWorks, I have different programs that are geared towards teaching people how to do the movements, not so much going deep into all the science behind the movements. That's like the next step that we're working on, a certification of going deeper because it is profound. I mean, the amount of information, knowledge, training that needs to happen for then the true aspect of understanding it is a lot, as you know.
Oh yeah, the neuroscience stuff, it's a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot. So, it's more like a guided way of you're doing these things. This is what we're doing it, not so far deep, but enough, right? Because we have enough on our plate that we can't take in a lot of information too. As we're doing that, uh, that's like a guided way of resetting our beautiful brain from the very beginning. So that's with BrainWorks. And then with Alma Integration, I'm doing much more of the one-on-one coaching, training, and doing different kinds of programs. Like I recently did one that's a 30-day, 30-day, very intensive, where people would receive an email with two rewires. Two rewires are basically two videos that you're gonna do what I'm doing. And so then we do that, and I would give people a song that would bring in both of those concepts that what the rewires were about in two different genres, because that's the other piece. It's like sometimes I'll do it like with, I'm gonna say, salsa or something like that. It's a very different feeling, and the words are taken in differently than if it's on lo-fi.
And
And
they're
so
doing
then
movement along with it, right? To ready the brain to take it in. Is that how it works?
the songs, no, the
No.
songs
Okay. So the
are
songs.
the 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 movements are with the rewires, the videos
Okay.
that I do. And then those words I put in the songs, which then are looping those concepts constantly, but you've already organized the body and the brain and you entrenched it to those words.
Okay, so
So
thank you for explaining that. So there's a level of regulate, you organize the body and the brain, meaning there's a level of like taking them to a state of more regulation where the brain becomes more open, and then the music does the same thing, sort of puts them in a certain feeling state to take in. Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And I'm thinking of like doing a second 30-day probably within a couple of months, because as of right now, people with Alma integration, it's all really geared towards where they're at. And I just take all my experience and I go, okay, this is what we're going to do. So it's very, very specialized coaching that I just bring everything to that.
Nice. And this, I feel like this work is so important for my listeners because a lot of what we're working on with this whole like changing our conditioning, changing our programming, changing how we feel about ourselves, changing how we see our kids so that we can show up for them in the way that we want to and the way that they need. Is it's not easy work to do. Our survival system has like years and years of, well, I have so much evidence that shows that this belief is true. And so I'm going to see everything through this belief. And so I'm always looking for ways of how do you rewire these beliefs in more simple ways, obviously like little repeated often, simple ways so that they can embody and stick and become the dominant pathway in the brain to follow versus the old, belief pathway.
Sure.
And it seems like what you're doing is that.
That's the most, that's my favorite part of my work, because early on I was so shy, Afshan, that it was like, I don't want to talk to people. That's why I wanted to be a computer programmer. Because computers didn't talk back then.
Yeah, much easier.
Much
Yeah.
easier. But the belief systems are so powerful, and we have a lot of good ones, but we have a lot of challenging ones,
Yeah,
limiting ones.
limiting.
And for sure, that's one of the ones that I've seen the biggest change in me, that it's given me the opportunity to really release a lot of those limiting ones, that I can just show up as me and be okay with it. Before it was like, I can turn into something else that I'll be accepted by you. I don't want to do that anymore. I don't do that anymore. And
Yes, nice.
that has a lot to do with the limiting beliefs that I've been able to release. Am I done? Oh no, that's the most beautiful part about this. We're always getting better and better. And
Yeah, and I think that journey of, really rewiring the conditioned, programmed nervous system can take many, many years. Yeah, and
it
so that,
can, it
and
can,
it's a life's journey. It's a life
100%.
journey, but it can get a lot better where you get to a point where like you're not living in survival, but there's still things that come up. Yeah.
Oh, and what I've learned is that it took me a long time to figure this piece out, Afshan, that many times I would deal with some emotional, I'm going to call it a trigger, a snag that would happen. And then that same concept would come around and I'm like, but I thought I already dealt with that. It's like, wait, I already took care of that. I already learned that. No, what I've learned is that we actually grow in spiral. We learn in spiral. So let's say that here, whatever happened snagged me with a feeling of I am not heard. And I deal with it with however I do. And then I'm growing around and I'm just making like a little spiral aspect of it. I'm going to come around to the same spot that something may be triggered that has to do, that feels like I'm not heard, but it's not going to be exactly the same. And now I have an opportunity to deepen that awareness of I'm heard, grow, learn it from a different angle, a different place, more profound. So it's never the same, but it may feel, if we're not aware, it may feel like we're like back in the same place. It's not the same place.
Yeah, I say that to my listeners all the time, the parents in my course. It's so important to understand that there can be many layers to a certain
Absolutely.
core belief system that you have in your system, and you need to when you get triggered again and you're like, I thought this was better, and it's back, so that means nothing worked. No, that's not the case. It did work for a while until the next
100%.
layer showed up, and now it's the next layer to work with to deepen to even more of that felt sense of that more life affirming belief that you really want to embody, and that's okay. That's part of the journey of life.
Absolutely. And
Yeah,
that's actually the exciting part, to be honest, because if we're inquisitive, it's like, oh, what else is going to come up this time?
yeah.
So It takes a
Right,
while, like
and
you
staying
said, but
open to them, right? Staying open and curious instead of being hard on yourself. Yeah.
100%. Yes.
So can you share with us, like, is there any and you know, it's just open for you if you want to or not. Is there something that you can share that parents can do for their child that or and something for themselves if they wanted to start today?
Absolutely. So I'll show you one of my favorite ones, and it's called Soothing Heart. And Soothing Heart, I'll explain a little bit about it, but let's do it together.
So
So
is
I'm
this
gonna
for the parent? This is the one for the
for the
parent?
parents,
Okay.
yes, this is for the parents. And as the parents do it, they're gonna mirror that to their children. But I want them to. We have to know it. We have to know it. Know it. Not just know it, but know it in ourselves, in us, in order for us to really be able to share it.
Yeah, the
So
felt sense. So focus on the felt sense, not doing it just from your head. Yeah, but
exactly.
fully
So
embodied.
let's go ahead and put both hands over our heart. So one hand over the heart and then the other one. So it's sort of like in the middle though. So it's on the heart, but more like in the middle. And I'll explain why it's in the middle. And then what we're going to do is we're going to set an intention. And I really like the intention option at the very beginning for parents to do that. Say, oh, I show up, I do my best, and I release the rest. Because
I
that
love that
truly
one.
is what we can do at the very beginning, is to really be kind to ourselves, that we're doing the best we can. We're showing up. We're
We
doing our
are.
best. And
We
then
are showing up
showing
always.
up.
We are persevering. We never give up. We're showing up. Yeah.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to take a breath. And when you exhale, exhale through your mouth and gently press on your heart as you exhale. We're going to do this 2 more breaths. So I show up, I do my best, and release the rest. Take a breath.
So as you breathe in, you're saying it.
Yeah. And then press on your heart and exhale through your mouth. If it feels good to you, change hands. If it doesn't, just keep your hands as they are. Take a breath. Press on your heart or hug your heart. I like to say hug your heart.
I
And
like
exhale
that
through your
too.
mouth. And let's do that one more time. I show up, I do my best, and release the rest. Take a breath. Hug your heart. Exhale through your mouth. Now, this is such a simple one, but it's really profound, Ashan, because if we as a parent can wake up and we can do this while we're still in bed and set the intention, what do I want for today? How do I want to show up? And then you also do that right before you're going to fall asleep, so that then you integrate a little. You start to change. Where are you going in your mind? What do you want? It could be as simple as, I am able to rest tonight. I can let go of today's challenges and go into reset. It doesn't really matter what the intention is. The combining it with this movement, it's really powerful. So I'm going to explain to you in like less than 2 minutes what this is, because this is really powerful. So as you are holding your heart, if you look at your hands, one side of your hands are on one side of your body, the other one is on the other side, which means you literally are activating both sides of your brain. And so both parts are being activated. When you take a breath and you have this intention running in your mind or out loud, and you press on your heart and exhale through your mouth, what we're doing, think of how many receptors you have just activated. So in each joint, we have little receptors. I like to call them little buttons. So if you think of these little buttons that you're activating, how many little buttons have you just activated, Afshan?
Yeah, 10 or more.
Oh, and for sure the ones in your hands, but what about
Oh,
your wrist, your
oh, right,
elbows,
right.
your
Yeah.
shoulders, your spine? I can feel it when I'm standing up. I can feel it all the way down to my legs. When I'm sitting down, I could feel it all the way down to my hips.
Oh, yeah, yeah. When you press slightly and all that. Yeah, I can feel
Yeah.
that too. Yeah.
So this is really powerful because what we're doing as we're activating all these little buttons, all these receptors, they're sending a message to my brain saying, there I am, there I am. So the brain is able to start to relax a little more because it knows where all the body parts are.
I can feel that
Gee.
already. Yeah.
And anytime we pull or we push on these receptors or these little buttons, they are so they allow us to be aware but calm us down at the same time. It's beautiful.
Nice.
The Heart Math Institute did research on this with Greg Braden about how when we connect with our heart for 3 minutes, we breathe and we bring a sense of gratitude. It ignites our immune system. It boosts our immune system for up to 6 hours. That's the science behind it. But what I've learned is that because we have, yes, we're doing that and we're integrating, we're calming our nervous system. But as we're saying that intention, I show up, I do my best and release the rest. In this state, it's actually activating an openness to our subconscious because we're crossing the midline. We're activating our body in such a way that it's opening up that subconscious. So whatever it is that we're saying, that literally is like rewriting a brand new belief inside your subconscious. That's what I have found that has been so crucial. So I utilize movement to help me organize and integrate my body and my brain together. And then what do I want more of? I want to
Nice.
be able, yeah. So, and that's why, like, what I have found is it's a very quick way, if you will. It's not quick, but it's like the more that what did that take us? Like less than 3 minutes. You can do these little tiny 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Over time, it's like every time that you do it, it's like you're putting a seed in that subconscious. Imagine if you're in
Little
winter
and
and you're
often.
putting a
That's how
little
you
seed.
rewire, right? Repetition, little and often. That's how the nervous system rewires. Yeah.
Exactly. So I go,
Nice.
give me 3 minutes at a time, 3 minutes a day. Lots
It's a
can happen.
beautiful practice, and it's those are the two greatest times to help rewire the brain. The first thing when you wake up and right before you go to sleep. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Is there anything you want to share for the child? Or is
The
that a little
kiddo,
bit too hard to show and explain right now?
there is one for the kiddos that I would do. Um, but it also has to do that the parent needs to model it first. So if you go to your ears and where your ears are connected to your head, and you take both, like your pincher finger and your thumb, or you pinch your fingers, and you do like a little massage. So I call it like little pinch and uncurl. And you're going to go all the way around the outer part of the ear as you work your way down to the bottom of your earlobe. And when you get down to the bottom of the earlobe, I always tell the kiddos, I go, you have to be silly. You got to go, wiggle, 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 wiggle. You go back to the top. And with the kiddos, especially the young ones, I usually just go pinch, pinch, pinch. So, but you were pinching and uncurling, pinch. So you're giving them something to do. And then you get down the bottom. Say it with me, Afshan. Wiggle, 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 wiggle. And you do that 3 times. What this is doing, it might sound super, super simple, but no, this is actually activating a lot of acupressure points that then relax the shoulders, relax when we're in fight or flight, the first and second vertebra lock. So activating these acupressure points allows the first and second vertebra to start unlocking, which means when we're in fight or flight, our eyes go into a tunnel vision.
Yeah.
Nothing matters other than where's the threat, and our ears can't hear all the sounds, only threatening sounds.
Yeah.
So in just doing this simple ear massage, it allows us to have peripheral vision. It allows us to be able to hear better. So if we want our child to hear better, we need to get them to engage in let's massage our ears. Let's turn on our listening ears.
Yeah. So
But
this is something both the parents can do and the child can do.
yes,
And I, can help them to come out of fight or flight so that they can not just listen better to you, which would be ideal as a parent, but also our kids are so sensitive, to, I know my son is, to like every little noise. His threat system is on, and, and it can relax them to just not be so hyper vigilant to
absolutely.
the noises around them. And so getting annoyed by their siblings so much and those kinds of things. Lovely.
Absolutely.
So thank you for sharing that. And so okay, so first of all, the last question. Okay, so what if there's one message you hope every parent that's listening remembers? Okay, the one who's exhausted, the one who's tried everything, who isn't sure that they have it in them to do one more thing. What is that last message that you'd like to share?
You're not alone. I know that it may sound like it's like, oh, come on. No, you really are not alone. And I really bless our so many parts to our world right now, because especially with the internet, there's a lot of challenges that are going on in our world, but there's a lot of blessings. And um, you really are. There's a lot of ways that I can explain why you are doing the best you can. And when we're struggling, it's really hard to see that I really am doing the best I can. You really are. And so I hope you hear it in my voice that I want to reach in and I want to give you a hug, because, truly, truly, when you have a child that is having such difficulties, we want to do everything in our power to make those difficulties go away. And yes, you're going to keep doing it, because you know what? You're stronger than you think, stronger than you know. And the other part is, what I've learned is that, each one of us has a mission here to do on earth. And we are geared with whatever that is going to help us create that, or fulfill that. Your child is gorgeous. And he or she has systems in place to help them be able to be who they were meant to be, and to guide this world in the best possible way. And that just goes too deep, but it's really beautiful when I think of it that way. I keep looking at my sons, and I marvel. And one of the things that I know for sure that their job was to do in this world was to wake me up.
Oh yeah. That was my son's job. Still is. Continues to be my number one Zen master, always showing me where I'm not aligned and come back into alignment. My
Exactly.
greatest gift.
Best teacher ever. So,
Yeah, our kids
be
are our
gentle.
best teachers, and I invite everyone to take that in. As hard as it is, your child is teaching you a better way and that pain can become purpose and growth and learning. So thank
Absolutely.
you so much. So where can everyone reach you?
Well, and can I share about the summits that are going to be going
Oh,
on?
yes, let's talk about that. Yeah.
So a big piece of what I love and what I'm doing is that I'm creating summits to help parents and to help people find nuggets, find information. And so the first summit that we're doing is for the ADHD Toolbox, which is BrainWorks, and that's going to be on August 4th, and then we're going to be on live that day. And then the second day, we have a lot of other speakers that are going to be talking, and they're pre-recorded. So I'm really excited about that. And that's helping parents understand and learn new ways of helping, or additional details of how they can help their kiddos. And
Yes,
then
I'll be sharing a talk in there too. So just for the
yes,
listeners to understand, if you're on my email list, you'll get that email.
absolutely. And then on August 25th, I'm doing another summit that's called Finding Calm in a Chaotic World. And that has, again, more to do with our how can we help ourselves? How can we help our heart to find calm in this chaotic world? And so it'll be completely different energy, different ways of sharing. I'm really excited about that. And both are free for people.
Nice. I'm
So
excited for that one too. I'll also be speaking on that one. And it'll be a different conversation, my friends. So join in. You're going to get more insights from that, and a different, deeper aspect of me and my experience. So I hope you'll all join. And it's been so wonderful. I'll link everything in the show notes. So you'll have access to that, everyone. And it's been so wonderful to have you here. You're just an inspiration, Alma. When I first met you, I was, we clicked right away. It's like we're soul friends
Yeah,
for
I
life.
agree.
People who just get each other, been through, hard challenges, and we understand the bigger meaning, the deeper purpose to it all. And that's my hope for all the listeners, that you find your bigger meaning and deeper purpose to it all. And I think that the Alma Integration Summit will help you with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Afshan.
Thank you. Okay. Take care.